Welcome back, everyone. This is Super Kelly Brothers podcast. This is a top 10 sci-fi movies. So if you like this video, don't forget to hit the subscribe, notification bell, smash that like button and all that kind of good stuff. My name's Sloan Kelly.
My name's Jody Kelly.
And my name is James Baker.
And it is James's turn to do the top 10 sci-fi movies of his all-time ever top 10 sci-fi movies.
So first, no pressure, but I just want to have a wee disclaimer, right? It's kind of like when my kids say, "Dad, which one of us do you prefer?"
Yeah.
Well, you've made me pick 10. Who's your favourite, Dad? You made me pick 10 films.
We could have said 25.
You maybe could have said 50 and I maybe would have covered it all. Because there's
pick 10. Well, what we said was pick 10 and it can't be Star Wars.
Pick 10, it can't be Star Wars, aye. But I know there's people going to be like, what? You've not put that in your top 10. And it's, but I had to pick 10, so I picked my 10.
To be fair, though, if they don't like, for example, if they don't like your top 10, Jody's got a top 10, and I'm going to do a top 10. So.
I think so. Well, do you know what? I think that would work. I feel a bit better. So listen, I sent you obviously my list, and we all had a look at each other's lists. Mm-hmm. And I've only changed this one film on my list. Initially at number 10 had Her, starring Joaquin Phoenix, which I think is an amazing film. I think this is my backdoor top 11, by the way, by saying this.
All right. Okay.
All right, sorry. So I'm just gonna forget it. I'm just gonna go. I like it because it's a little bit boring. Let's go on to what my actual top 10 is. Invaders from Mars. The original, I think it's 1953. Invaders from Mars, where it's, listen, when I watched it on BBC Two many, many, many years ago, it was in black and white. Now I looked it up on Amazon Prime just recently, and it's in colour, and I've never seen it in colour.
Oh, really?
So they must have gone back and coloured it in.
Oh, maybe.
The same way Peter Jackson done with that World War One.
By the way,
yeah.
But it's quite well tips out.
If you go back and sorry to interrupt, James, but if you go back and watch Jody's top 10, he actually says that at the start of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the famous picket fence bit, that's actually from Invaders from Mars.
I thought it was, and I didn't want to say anything. I thought it was. Because Invasion of the Body Snatchers is something quite different.
Yeah,
when he said picket fence,
he's getting pulled into
the sand,
the sanatorium or something with.
That's my favourite sci-fi from that. It's not Body Snatchers.
It's not.
Yes, it's that one.
Feel triumphant. I was like,
oh my God.
See, if you go back, you probably won't look at my reaction. I'm like, all right, okay, sounds like Invaders from Mars.
That's the one I like.
Oh my God. All right, okay.
Do you know what? I wasn't entirely sure myself when I said that scene. I do love
do you know why?
Body Snatchers, but that is the movie I really like.
Yeah,
because it makes you feel a certain way, and I think when I reviewed my top 10, I based it on maybe not the prowess of the director or like the amazing special effects. I've just based it on how I felt at the time when I watched it.
Yeah.
All right, so that's what I'm going on. And I remember as a kid watching that thing, and I'm just like, I love this style of, I love it, the fact that the dad comes back in and he's got the thing in the back of his head, and he's like, "No, George, everything's okay." And then he just turns around and slaps him.
You all have weird
That's
things.
why you get mixed up. It's like a needle in the back that comes out, isn't it?
Yeah. But the other thing is they keep saying things like, "There's something at the bottom of the garden. Do you want to come and take a look at it?"
That's right.
And then you come back and look, "Hello."
Aye.
Oh my God!
And you can't touch that.
Thing as well.
So when we watched that just recently, the kids couldn't understand why Faith was like, "Is that filmed in like how's that filmed? Why is it just a square? Why is it not like filmed the whole?" That's just the way it was.
Explained that to Danny the other day.
Yeah. It's an amazing film, and I guess when I watched it, I think I was probably 9 or 10 when I watched it. I was just like, "That's amazing," and I feel it. I don't know how I feel because it's so depressing. And this guy's just hit a kid, and the police have just turned up and they're looking for him, and this young girl set a house on fire, and all these people are getting sucked in, and everyone's pretending they're okay. And I think somewhere there's some kind of, I don't know, deeper meaning to it. And I guess I'm maybe getting hints of that of it. That's why I've gone back to it.
Yeah,
Sorry?
all sci-fi is based around something that's happening at the time, isn't it? But it's just a kind of exaggerated version of kind of.
And it's a brilliant film. And I think if I said to my kids, we're going to sit down and watch this film, there's no way I would have done that. But I kind of made sure they were on the couches, and I was just like, they were on their iPads, on their phones, and I never said, we're watching this film, I just put it on. And they all just seemed to be drawn to it. And they kind of discovered it themselves. So that is, I took out her and I put in Invaders from Mars. So that I just love it. Just love it.
You can see why I was confused.
No, definitely. I think I had to go back, Jody, if I was being honest, and I had to look at, and when I seen your list, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, I was just like, Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I need to go back and see, am I talking about the same thing here? Because there is a confusion there. If you're not really familiar with the content, because it's not the type of film you'd watch every weekend or every year. I mean, you've probably not seen that film in 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
So the subject matter feels quite familiar, and I think it's an easy thing to mistake. That's the reason I went back and just had another look at it. When you guys said,
is that on Netflix?
It's on Amazon Prime. If you subscribe to Amazon Prime, you'll get it included in the UK anyway.
I will be watching that this week.
Right, I've got that.
It's an absolute belter of a film.
Brilliant.
Worthy of top 10 sci-fi, 100%.
100%.
So my next is Predator.
Okay.
Predator.
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 I like to pronounce it Predator. I think you'll find.
I love Arnold anyway, and I just remember watching it at the time. My mum and dad rented it from the local video store, and I guess, and it's another thing about how it made me feel at the time and upon first watch, and that's what my whole list is based on. And I just remember them bringing it back from the video store because they liked Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's not necessarily that they like sci-fi, but they like that, like they liked him. So, and we just watched it, and you just had not seen anything like that at the time. Like the camouflage that the creature uses was just amazing. Even though it looks a little bit rubbish now upon with fresh eyes, but at the time it was just amazing. And the full character.
The concept's still brilliant.
It is. Yeah. I mean, Jesse Ventura is Blaine. Do you know what?
Who's what's his face? Carl Weathers.
Carl Weathers was in it.
Yep.
Can't remember who he was, what his character's name, but they had that epic handshake at the beginning. I think anything with one of those Huey helicopters in it is all right by me.
Yeah. And
so
get to the chopper
as well.
Get to the chopper. And who done the soundtrack? Silvestri?
Jerry
Goldsmith. Goldsmith.
I think it was.
The guy that did Gremlins 2.
There was certain.
I think it is. Is it Jerry Goldsmith? Is that what you said it was?
Jerry Goldsmith. Yeah, he also did the Voyager soundtrack as well. He was
nice. However, just that film and that music and everything about it and all the characters, like Billy's like.
That's Shane Black, the young kid with the glasses.
Billy's not Shane Black, but Shane Black is. Didn't he write Iron Man 3?
Yeah, he also wrote Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, Lethal Weapon.
Wow, did he?
Yeah. He also wrote Predators, or
I think he did. He directed it. He directed
the Predator, the most recent one.
Yes.
We were watching Iron Man 3 just before this.
That's not a film I often go back to, but anyway, that's another story. So I think Predator. Who directed it? The same guy who done Die Hard.
John McTiernan.
John McTiernan directed it. Let's just reeks of him. I love John McTiernan so much. I also forgot his name. So
Jerry Goldsmith, I don't think did Predator music.
Oh, didn't he?
But he did do Gremlins.
He did.
Whoever done
Total Recall.
My first shout was Alan Silvestri, so I'm just going to have a quick... No, do you know what? I'm not looking it up. I can't be bothered. I'm just going to go for it.
You keep going.
I'll keep going. You look it up and see who done it. So, next in line is Star Trek First Contract.
Easy for you to say.
First Contact.
CV.
It was Alan Silvestri.
So I was originally correct.
You're
Bloody
originally
hell.
correct, yes.
Mr. Hotfingers.
So, Star Trek: First Contact is a brilliant, brilliant science fiction movie, and I don't know if you guys watch or have watched Next Gen, but Jean-Luc Picard's, Patrick Stewart as Jean-Luc Picard's absolutely amazing.
Sloan's your man for that.
I couldn't agree with you more about Star Trek: First Contact being a great science fiction movie. I think it's probably the best Star Trek movie, other than maybe Undiscovered Country. But for Next Generation, that's my favourite one.
Aye. It's a brilliant, brilliant film. There's so many, like, apart from the science fiction stuff, which it's seeped in science fiction, so they don't have to try that hard because it's all those guys, and they're all associated with science fiction. They're all in the Enterprise, and they're just going for the same thing. Mm-hmm. So it allows for lots of character moments and lots of emotion. And I don't know if you recall the scene between Jean-Luc Picard and Worf, where he calls him a coward because he's probably experiencing PTSD from what happened with the Borg. And then later on, there's a callback to that. And he was just like, in fact, Commander Worf, I think you're one of the bravest people I know. And I'm just like welling up.
The bit where he says you're a coward, and Worf takes one step towards him. And he says, "If you were any other man, I would kill you where you stand."
Yes, all of that stuff.
Oh, good.
It's just amazing. It's just amazing, and it makes it a brilliant, brilliant film. Who else is in it? Who calls him out and all that stuff? He brings her into his ready room. Who?
No relation. Lily Sloan is she's the Earthling that was friends with Ephraim Cochrane, and
that's right.
She ends up somehow, I can't remember why, but she ends up on the Enterprise, and then they have this. I think she gets captured by the Borg or something on Earth, or whatever it is, and so she ends up in the Enterprise, and Picard and her become friends. In the show.
Was the Borg designed by Geiger, H.R. Geiger?
I don't think so, but it reeks of Geiger.
Is it not him?
I don't think so, but it does reek of him for sure.
It does.
So, listen, Jody, are you into Star Trek? Are you Star Trek?
No, massively. No, Sloan is Sloan more so.
So, anyways, listen. That's where I am. Star Trek: First Contact. The next one I've got is the Terminator, the original 1984, I think it was. Was just, I remember seeing it at the time, and I was just like, they're swearing in it. There's loads of violence. It's science fiction. This guy's a robot, but you didn't know he was a robot to begin with. The whole.
I mean, you could have his acting is quite wooden.
Totally. I mean, that was my first whole experience to I'll Be Back.
But then he that fitted perfectly with a robot, though.
Oh, no, absolutely. It worked.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it was my first probably real time travel film, and just having to understand, like, oh my gosh, all these revelations about how, time travel will affect things or can affect, like, the outcome of things. And when people meet each other, when Kyle Reese first meets Sarah Connor, and she's just biting his finger, like, and he's like, that hurts. Like, and he's introducing himself. It's just, and the music, it's proper full on 80s. And I felt, actually, when I was watching, I'm rewatching The Mandalorian with the kids, and we watched The Prisoner, and there's lots of, like, the lights shut out and it goes to red lights, and the music's very, very Terminator-ish, like, like properly synthesized, fast-paced, and that kind of thing, I think, is born from the Terminator. There's a lot of inspiration, science fiction inspiration has come from the Terminator. So the Terminator is definitely up there for me. And it's not an action film, and it's not a horror film. It's definitely sci-fi. Just saying.
It's also
Tell you what, though, one. Sorry, anyway.
Well, in Terminator Vision, the bit where he's trying to, like, come up with the responses. There's a guy that eventually comes up with the correct response, which is F off. The code running down the side is
I love this.
machine code, which is the same machine code that's used, or same CPU was used on the VIC-20 and Commodore 64, BBC Micro, and a whole slew of other things like the PC Engine. But it's basically that machine code going down the side there, which is really cool. Now
that is very cool.
They use JavaScript, but back then it was like machine code, and it's like oh, looked really futuristic.
Good.
Would you agree that the subsequent movies do not live up? T2 obviously is a classic. The first two movies, faultless, and then after that it becomes a bit of a cluster. You know what?
Well, Cameron stopped being involved with it though. That's why.
Aye.
Except the last one, he was involved in the last one.
Yeah,
it was,
and I did like that actually.
The last one was supposed to be a direct sequel to T2, wasn't it?
And I liked it. I think it was relevant and funny and serious, and I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I quite like it when the movies, like Terminator Salvation was the Christian Bale one, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, directed by McG.
McG. Go yourself.
I know. No, I quite liked it, but I didn't like it as a Terminator film.
Yeah.
And I didn't like Genesis.
It's funny how they kind of go away from it. The whole thing of, it just becomes a bit of a mess. Anyway, but yeah, the first two are dynamite.
Glass.
Absolutely. Next on my list is The Thing. Obviously, it's the John Carpenter's 80s thing, because I just think it's amazing. There's some parts that are boring, some parts are full on horrific, even though it's totally seeped in science fiction. Sloan. And I think the music's great. I think the tension's great, and I just love it. I remember wanting to see a film actually at Christmas time with one of my friends. It was called Black Christmas, and I think it was the most rubbishest film I'd ever seen, and one of two films I've only ever walked out on in the cinema. And there was loads of snow in it, and the film was rubbish. I was watching the film. There was hundreds of snow in it, and I thought, do you know what? I could be at home watching The Thing, and I got up and walked out on principle alone. So anyway,
do you know what modern movie was hugely influenced by The Thing?
No.
Quentin Tarantino's Hateful Eight.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Yeah.
So much so that I think he used music from The Thing. Kurt Russell's in it. There's snow. They're in a cabin in the snow. There's so many.
And they're trying to find out.
And they're all paranoid about each other.
And they're all paranoid of it's a kind of whodunit type thing.
Yeah.
So did Tarantino say that?
Yeah, he did.
Did he? Oh, cool. I mean, it totally makes sense. Totally makes sense now. Right, nice one. Cool. My number 5 is Interstellar.
The only Chris Nolan movie I like.
Oof. I'm
so controversial in these bloody things.
I don't know. I thought it was welcomed onto this.
And by the way,
go on.
It's not that I don't know this about Sloan. No. We've had words, James.
I'll let you talk about it, James.
I think watching Interstellar, I've come to the conclusion, because I like my science fiction like boring. Like I don't know if you've ever seen Star Trek: The Motion Picture. That's not made it into my top 10. That's not made it in my top 10, but by everything that reeks out of me, it should have, because it is literally the most boring science fiction film ever. Nothing happens in it.
Do you know a good science fiction movie where nothing happens in it, but I love to death, is This Island Earth. But I didn't put it. But did I put it in my top 10? I guess you'll have to find out in the next episode.
Oh, see what you did there.
I like it. I have seen a YouTube video of a guy saying that as one of the most underrated science fiction movies of all time.
Interesting. Motion picture.
Watch it again.
I've watched it this week.
Oh, did you? It's still shit.
What one? This Island Earth?
The motion picture. No, the motion.
Oh, the motion picture.
Have you got it in DVD?
No, I put it on Sky Movies.
Oh, really?
Put it on Sky Movies. Yeah. And it's a tough watch, and it's just I think it's the most hardcore of hardcores people that can sit there and actually
Understand it.
Do you know those monks that have those whips that just?
Oh, the self-flagellate Opus Dei guys.
That's it. I'm one of those sci-fi monks. I'll watch the motion picture. Like, that's how much I like it.
Sitting there with a taser again.
Listen, I love the motion picture so much I didn't put it in my top 10. So, but that's just one of the things you've just got to do. You got to pick them. You got to pick them. So,
why did you choose
but anyway,
Interstellar then?
Why did I choose Interstellar? I chose it because as I was
I forgot we were talking about that.
I know. Again, I was watching it at the time with my kids, and because what's the name of Matthew McConaughey's kids?
Murph.
Charlie. Murph.
Murph.
So I think Murph was originally meant to be a boy, but it ended up being his kid daughter.
Yeah.
And because I've got two girls, watching it with my kids, again, based on my top 10 is based on how I felt at the time. When I was watching it, I watched it myself, but then I watched it again, and I was thinking, I want to watch this with my girls. So watched it with them separately so I could discuss it with them separately. And there's plenty of time for me to explain this is going to happen, or that's why they're doing this, or that's why they're doing this. And it's really complicated sci-fi stuff, I guess, that gave me the time to nurse them through it.
Deep, heavy sci-fi movie.
Aye, and it's got them to the point where, like they both individually said over the period of time that it's been released, and we've had it at home on Blu-ray, Dad, let's watch Interstellar again, because that was an experience for us. So that's why it definitely makes it in our top 10, because Murph was a girl, and it's a father-daughter relationship. And I love this. Go on.
It's funny because Evelyn had brought that up tonight. We were sitting watching a movie, and she was like, I can't remember why she brought it up, but she was like, I think Danny would like to watch Interstellar. And I was like, quite slow and quite heavy, and really big concepts going on. I don't know if we quite get it, but I don't know.
I don't think. I think it's.
I'd like to watch it again myself, actually.
See, to actually sit there and watch it with them, and then remember when they got to a certain point in space. They travelled through the first wormhole, and it was bordering around this black hole. And they left the guy on the ship, and they said, "Listen, for every minute we're down here, you will experience so many years."
Yep.
And the tidal waves, or just, it wasn't even a tidal wave, it was just a wave on that planet. So they could stand in 3 or 4 foot of water. The waves, not tidal waves, just the normal waves, were, it seemed like maybe a mile high. And it set them off track, and eventually when they got back, they were 3 or 4 minutes overdue, but it caused this guy to experience, it caused so much talk about physics and the theory of physics in our house, and I just loved it. And it's definitely got a firm place in my top 10 and in my heart.
I think the chat started because of the rocket launch that was supposed to happen.
Right.
Yeah, and
yes.
then we started talking about wormholes, and then everyone said, "Oh, do you think we should watch Interstellar?"
We've talked about this before. I don't think we've talked about it in a podcast, Jody, but we've definitely talked about it before. I don't think 20-year-old me would like this movie, would like Interstellar at all. I think if you're watching it as an adult with kids, it's the most heartbreaking movie you've ever seen.
It hits you.
I think as a 20-year-old kid, I'd be like, all right. It would not have an impact to me watching it at that age as it did when I watched it 3 or 4 years ago, whenever it was.
It's definitely mature sci-fi. And I know what you mean, if you've got kids, it hits you harder, maybe, the emotional side of it.
Hans Zimmer's score is amazing in that film.
He is phenomenal.
I like his organ.
I bet you do.
Ding! Sorry. Anyway. Let's go on.
I've got a very unstable desk here right now.
I know you do. I thought it was you hitting it with the knee.
Every time I laugh, I'm like that.
Last week, my desk was unstable, and I put it onto a chair. So, next on my list is Event Horizon.
Yes.
Again, definitely seeped in sci-fi.
Mhm.
Although there are horrific elements in it, it's definitely not a horror film. Okay, so, and I just remember got to see that in the pictures, and I just remember being like all these triggers, like it's horrific, it's based in science. There's lots of talk about wormholes, and
Yeah.
you know they've got the old. I'm sure if I remember it correctly,
Sam
because
Neill's
I'm
in it.
not Sam Neill's in it. Yeah, and New Zealand are really, really good at COVID-19, so it's got
Very
to be a
good.
winner. I know.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, and I've seen this in a few films. The old get a bit of paper, fold it over, get the pencil, stick
Oh,
it
I've seen
through.
it. Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure that's the first time I've seen that. You know, if I remember it correctly, because I've not seen Event Horizon in a few years now. But I just remember the way got to see in the pictures, the way it made me feel, and I do like horror. And I'll give you that one, Sloan. It
Sloan
is quite
Disney.
horrific.
I think this is quite horrific as well. Is this the one? Do they have? Are they like sitting around the cafe on the ship or canteen galley, whatever it is, and they're sitting smoking?
Aye. Uh-huh.
Who's going to smoke in a spaceship?
I think what you fail to realise, Sloan, is that far in the future, because they have a big throwback to like the 90s and the 2000s, they've got simulated cigarettes that's not even as bad as vapes.
Oh, okay.
So they're not, you might look at them as real cigarettes, but they're not.
Yeah.
You should have done your nerd voice there. I think you're all right.
I think you'll find.
Oh, my glasses.
yeah. I think you'll find. I've thought about that quite a bit. Not real cigarettes.
They're
Sorry,
actually
did you
candy sticks, and they're actually not nicotine. It's actually kind of sugar.
Yes, that is exactly correct. I think Event Horizon's brilliant. Lots of horror,
I've seen that film
lots
for
of
a
great,
long time.
lots of story, lots of great.
I watched it in VHS, I think.
See these lists. I'm gonna seek out some of these movies, by the way, and you
Same
should
with yours.
too.
Well, that's kind of what we want our viewers to do. Is
Yeah, for sure.
movies if you haven't watched these movies, because we're clearly
Throwing these things up.
we've enjoyed these movies, so
Yeah, for sure.
you should watch these movies as well.
I think Event Horizon is borderline. It's not. It could never be number one, but it's very, 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 very good. Very good. And if you've not seen it, you definitely should see it.
Yeah.
I think if you talk about Event Horizon too much, you could really give away. You could really spoil it. And as opposed to saying spoilers after you've spoiled it, which most folk do, I'm going to say spoilers.
You could also end up back at the start of the conversation as well.
Yes, indeed. So let's not do that.
No.
Joke, Jody, doesn't matter.
Tough call for the top three. Let's go with Star Trek: The Wrath of Khan. Yeah. It's.
I remember that being a good one. Yeah.
It's a brilliant film. There's a bit of boredom in it, but there's also that it does introduce the. Let's just stop there for a second, right? I've come to the conclusion in this last week when I've been told to write my top 10 that I would be happy on a spaceship in a corridor without a window as long as I knew I was there and all my job was just to sweep the floor. It's enough boredom. I knew I was in space. It's mundane enough, and I think I'd actually be happy till the day I died. I don't think I need to have pals. I don't think I need to have a family if I knew I was in space.
Can you imagine how annoying the anti-gravity thing switched off and all the stuff you'd swept up? It's like,
I would be really annoyed at that. It would have to have like a really good, like, kind of false gravity kind of system in place.
Sweeping up?
Yeah, especially if I was sweeping up. And
Just lift up the bulkhead and the vacuum of space will do the rest.
I know. But I just
you're cleaning out the toilets, and then it doesn't work.
Listen, I'm sweeping corridors. I'm not a toilet cleaner.
All right, okay.
If I was
you tell yourself that, James.
I think that's where I'd be happy.
You got a clean 10 forward. He's not talking about the.
I'm a sweep. I'm not a toilet cleaner.
Anyway, listen. Star Trek: Wrath of Khan. I think it was the first Star Trek film. I was like, holy smoke! They're sticking like trilobites into someone's ear.
Yeah.
And there's blood coming out. And I was shocked at that. And then there's the amazing battle scenes. There's the death of Spock. There's the bagpipes.
Spoilers.
I'm crying. You've won.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, thanks.
The first appearance of the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
Aye, definitely. Oh, yeah.
When the spoilers end, by the way, like
What spoilers?
a movie of 1980, whatever it was.
I don't think that.
If you've not seen that now,
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the rules are with that. But if you've not seen the Wrath of Khan, then you're watching this, it's
more
tough.
fool you.
Absolutely. And the whole "you have and always will be my friend," and then Kirk saying like, "There's no one more human than you are," blah blah blah. It's just
and he
amazing.
choked up as well.
He did. I think he probably actually did.
Yeah.
So.
And he shoots him out of a torpedo.
And Scotty's playing the bagpipes.
Yeah.
So if you don't cry at that, I don't want to know.
You don't have a heart.
Listen, I'm going to do my last two just quickly, right? I've got Aliens and Alien. Both two totally different directors, James Cameron and Ridley Scott.
Yep.
I watched Alien when I was a kid. I thought it was absolutely amazing. We spoke about it briefly, so I'm not going to go too deep into it. I've talked about the bits that I love. It's a little bit boring, and it's got a lot of horror in it, and it's got a lot of sci-fi in it, so I absolutely love it. Yeah. And Aliens is basically Vietnam in space.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's James Cameron, I feel, at his best. So I know he's done Terminator 1 and he's done Terminator 2, and arguably Terminator 2 is a better film if we're talking about action, but I think Terminator 1 is better if you're talking about sci-fi. I think Aliens is a brilliant sequel, like Empire Strikes Back, worthy sequel to the franchise, because nothing else really touches it, let's face it. And those two are my 2 and 1. You know, and I think they're, even though they deal with the same subject matter, they've got two completely different viewpoints of it, and two relevant viewpoints of it.
Absolutely.
The music's great in both. I listen to the soundtracks both a lot. I think Michael Biehn's brilliant in Aliens. Sigourney's brilliant in both of them. The action's amazing, and the pace of the action, you know, Newt is brilliant. They mostly come at night, mostly. There's loads of brilliant one-liners which I still use to this day in everyday life.
They're gonna be like, "Game over, man."
The big,
exactly.
The big machine that she used to lift things.
Oh, the heavy lifter thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you see it at the sort of start of the movie, and you're like, "That'll come in at near the end." Yeah. You know, they put these things in. You don't know these things at the time, but you've seen them.
I never knew it at the time. It's only watching it now with clever eyes.
No.
That
I know,
realize.
but they do that thing in movies all the time now. You know.
I know.
Type of thing.
Yeah, but it's those films that make that learn you that type of style of filming. Oh, that's in there briefly. You know, she was like, "Where'd you want it?" And Apod like, "B12, please." You know, she's like, and she puts it in, then it's gone away until the end, and you're like, "I remember that. She's gonna kick her ass."
But it was James Bond started doing things like that. It's like when Q gives him a piece of chewing gum that's going to turn into a bomb or something. He's like, "Give me this for him. I'm ever going to use this," you know. And then, sure enough, later on in the movie, he's like,
and you're like, "I remember this." So listen, that's without going into Alien and Aliens too deeply. If you've not seen them, you know, you just need to see them.
Shame on you.
They're just brilliant films. And I think it's depends on what mood I'm in, and it's the same with the Star Wars talk we've had recently. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it changes what I think is the best.
Yeah.
I think and looking at my list of sci-fi stuff, I think my checklist is you need to be either in space or have come from space. Is what makes me happy, and the more boredom, I think, the better. Anyway, that's me.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so you had Invaders from Mars, Predator, Star Trek: First Contact, Terminator, The Thing, Interstellar, Event Horizon, Wrath of Khan,
Yeah.
Aliens and then Alien.
Oh, sorry. The one thing that you forgot to say was it wasn't the Terminator, it was the Terminator.
The Terminator.
The Terminator.
The Terminator.
Aye, but yeah, that's it.
That's awesome. That's a great top.
Come
10.
on.
All right.
Say hello, Heidi.
Hi.
Head down.
Hi, Heidi. Hiya.
Hello.
Right. So, right, Mum's calling you.
So anyway, that is all we have for the top 10. Thank you all for watching. Hit that subscribe button, smash that notification bell, hit the like button as well, and let us know how much you like the video in the comments below. And we will see you in the next episode.
Cool.